As we head into another Premier League season, I thought, yeah, what the heck, let's do some predictions. Now, right before we get into the video, if you guys could leave a like on it and subscribe as well, I would greatly appreciate it. But enough of all that, let's jump right into it. So, like always, we're going to start from the bottom, work our way up to the top. And not going to go too much into it here for the bottom three, unfortunately. I think Wolves comes in dead last. I think they're going to have a pretty disappointing season. They're going to end up going down to the Championship in dead last. 19th is going to be Sheffield. I think it's pretty cool that they came back up into the Premier League for the first time in a few seasons, but they haven't really improved the team quite good enough to stay up, unfortunately, in my opinion. And finally, in 18th place, I think it's going to be Luton. Now, I've tried all day when thinking about this video where I'm going to put certain teams, things like that, and I tried so hard to get Luton out of the bottom three. But I just don't think they got what it takes. I think they're going to go back down. And hopefully they come back up again pretty soon because it's a pretty cool story, especially with how small their stadium was last season, having to make improvements just to play in the Premier League this year. But unfortunately for Luton, I'm sorry. I really did not want to do this, but I think you're going to go down in 18th place. Moving straight along to the lower mid-table sections, and in 17th place, I think this team is going to have a pretty disappointing season, and I think they're going to almost get relegated, and that's Crystal Palace. It could just be me. I think the loss of Zaha to Galatasaray is really going to hurt them, and they're not going to quite know what to do with it for a little while, and they're going to really struggle. They might even be in the bottom three for a good bit of the season, and then they'll end up scraping out of the bottom three, staying up for another season. I could be way off base here, but I think Zaha leaving is just going to fill a hole or create a hole that they're going to have struggles to fill, and they're going to get in 17th place. Right in front of them, though, I think it's going to be... Who did I say it was going to be? I think it's going to be Nottingham Forest in 16th place. They were able to stay up last season. I don't think they really shifted the team around too much, and they're going to stay up for another season. There could be threats of them going down, but I think they'll stay up quite comfortably in the end. 15th place, I think, is going to be Bournemouth. And the video of them last year calling out everyone that said they were going to go down is enough for me. I'm just staying away from them. I don't want to be in another video like that. I've already seen some videos where people are predicting them to go down this year, so I'm not touching that with a 30-foot pole. I'm just going to leave that be and let all of them deal with that. So then that leaves us to 14th place. I think that's going to be Everton. They really struggled last year. They were threatening to go down themselves last season, and they were able to stay up. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that bad this year. However, they're still not going to get up into the top half of the table, probably where Everton fans think they should be or want to be. They're going to have to sort of build that squad up a little bit more if they want to even think about doing anything like that. So moving on into 13th place, I think that's going to be Fulham. Now, about the same spot where they ended up last year. Mitrovic is gone. He's going to Saudi Arabia. I think that's not going to be a huge loss, but a loss nonetheless. They're going to struggle to find some goals, I think, every now and then. So 13th place for them. Not the worst, not the best. And yeah, I expect them to do about the same this year. Moving straight along here, we got the higher mid-table section here. Now I think in 12th place is going to be Burnley. Vincent Kompany at the wheel, I think, is going to do really well for them in the Premier League. They don't absolutely blow the place up, but I think they're going to have a very comfortable season, get that 12th spot, and just kind of start cruising from there, see if they can't build their squad to push up higher up the table. 11th place, I think, is going to be West Ham. Now, with the mix of them being in the Europa League now, since they won the Conference League at the end of last season, them moving on from Declan Rice, getting an absolutely huge payday, good for them, but obviously a very big piece of that team. So between Rice being gone and an even bigger European competition, I think that's going to put them about the same spot as they were last season in the Premier League, which is going to be that 11th place. Moving straight along now to 10th place, I think it's going to be Brentford. Now, obviously losing Ivan Toney for the season is huge for them. I think they're going to struggle to find some goals every now and then, sort of similar to Fulham. But I think the squad around him at the end of last season was a bit better. I think they're going to cruise into 10th place, again with West Ham playing in Europe and all the other cups and such as well. I think Brentford kind of squeezed into that top 10 spot. Nothing too impressive, nothing too spectacular, but they'll just kind of be there and get 10th place. Moving up to ninth place, I think it's going to be Brighton. Sort of similar to West Ham, they've got European football. This is the first time, to my knowledge, Brighton's ever had European football. Excuse the voice crack there, pardon me. But they've still got a very good squad, but I think just because they've got that extra layer of competitions, it's just going to stretch the squad out a little too thin at times. They're going to struggle in the league as a result of that. So I think they get ninth place. And to round out this section right here, I think it's going to be Aston Villa. Very similar to Brighton as well. I think they just barely finish above Brighton just because they've got Unai Emery as manager. I think he's a little bit underrated, in my opinion. He obviously didn't do that well at Arsenal, but here at Aston Villa, he's done really well. I think pretty much everything I said about Brighton applies here to Aston Villa, and mixed with the fact that the last 7 teams, they're just that much better. I don't see any of these last 7 teams here getting threatened with any of their top 7 spots here. So that explains to me why I think Aston Villa finishes 8th, Brighton 9th, and so on. So now we move on into the Europa Conference League spot here in 7th place. And this is a tough one for me. There's 2 very obvious teams that I think should go in this spot right here, but I only have to pick one. So I'm going to let my fandom show just a little bit. I think Tottenham is going to get the Europa League Conference, or the Europa Conference League spot, pardon me, and get 7th place there. And quite honestly, it all hinges on if Harry Kane stays or goes. Bayern Munich have gone in for him, and I don't really understand the move. If I'm Harry Kane, you might as well just stay at Tottenham, because I don't think you're going to get much more if you go to Bayern. Obviously, you'll win a German league, but there's really not much else to really go for there. I don't think that team's good enough to win a Champions League, so there's no real sense in him doing that unless he just wants something different. So I think Tottenham is going to slide into that 7th spot, which means for me, I think Chelsea finishes in 6th place, getting that 2nd Europa League spot. Chelsea was an absolute mess last season. New owner, $500 million spent in 2 transfer windows, just a complete crapshoot of a season for them. I think things mellow out dramatically, obviously with the sales of Kovacic, Pulisic, Mason Mount, just to name a few. The squad is a lot less. There was like 30 some odd players in the team last year, which was unheard of. So I think with a little more consistent squad and a new manager in Pochettino, I've really liked him even when he was at Spurs, and that's saying something. I think between all that, they're going to get it back on track here and finish in 6th, and then slowly with time and familiarity with each other, start pushing up for the Champions League and maybe even the Premier League itself. But for now, I think 6th is a pretty safe bet. And to round up their Europa League spots, I think it's going to be Newcastle. Now, they've brought in a couple players, spent a lot of money, but I think just because this team as a whole is going to be having Champions League and European football for the first time together, I think that's going to hurt them just a little bit. And obviously the last 4 teams here, well, barring Arsenal, but I think with Arteta, they're going to be fine. I think Newcastle is just going to slide back out of the Champions League spots and finish in 5th place, still getting a Europa League spot though. Which leaves us now with the top 4 teams in the Premier League. And for me, this is pretty simple, actually. I think Manchester United is going to get 4th. I think with the addition of Mason Mount, that's going to help solidify the midfield there. That's his name, sure. Marcus Rashford getting a contract extension. This team is really good. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes, the new keeper, Onana, that is his name. They're going to be a solid team this year, but I think the last 3 teams here are just going to be a little bit better with some bolstering of their squads as well. I think the top 4 is going to comfortably get top 4, but I think United's going to get that 4th spot. 3rd place is going to be Liverpool. Obviously, Van Dijk fully healthy, Mo Salah, they just do their thing. The addition of McAllister from Brighton and Shalobasai, I'm not saying that right, but both of those players coming in are going to improve that team massively. I think with Jurgen Klopp at the wheel as well, that's just going to help this team dramatically. I think they're going to comfortably get 3rd, not really worry about dropping out of the top 4, and they'll get Champions League next year. Now that leaves, obviously, with Manchester City and Arsenal. for the last two teams here. Now, Arsenal, I think they're just going to run it back with the addition of Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Timber. These guys, they're going to bolster the squad. Worries about Champions League? I don't think there's going to be any with the stretching of the squad, like I said earlier, with Villa or Brighton. I don't think they're going to have an issue with that at all. So, quite honestly, I think even though this last season was a very close title race, barring the last couple of weeks, I think this one's going to be even tighter. And even as a Chelsea fan, I want to pick Arsenal because City has been dominating so long, but they're just so good, man. They're going to win the league. Arsenal's going to get second. And, you know, yeah, like I said, I think Arteta, he's just going to have, when it comes to European and Premier League, just going to mind blank, they're going to stick it out. They're going to be right there neck and neck with City again, just like they were for the most of last season. But City is going to do what City always does, and that's just win leagues. They're just going to win the league. They'll be the first team in English history to win the top flight for the 4 straight years. I don't know if that just applies to Premier League or the entirety of English football. I could be wrong. But City's going to win the Premier League again, and Pep Guardiola and his supporting cast around him, and they're just going to further solidify their historic run that they've been on. Heck, they might win all 4 trophies that they can win. You know, both Cups, the Champions League again, the Premier League. We'll see what happens, but this is my table. I'm pretty comfortable with it. But let me know what you guys think. And let me know your hottest take for the Premier League this coming season. Like, is Haaland only going to score 10 goals this year because they figure him out? Or is Luton going to get Conference League? Like, just let me, if you got him, I want to hear him. Let me know in the comments. Give this video a like I said earlier, and subscribe if you want to. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Take care, and peace.